Now, the Christian fascist strategy for crippling Biden, for throwing sand into the gears and retaking power, these Christian fascists, the strategy is in plain sight. Greg Sargent tried to explain this to people like me in the Washington Post, and we start out by stipulating this up front. It's impossible to grasp this political moment without grappling with the degree to which the Republican Party's path back to power depends on its increasing embrace of voter suppression and anti-democratic tactics. But so much of the commentary about the Republican or the Christian fascists or this Trump scum, the strategy for regaining power, the strategy for the big political battles to come, it's not mentioned that much about voter suppression and these anti-democratic tactics. I think mainstream media is still considering, at least in their reporting or their observing or their analysis, that the Republican Party is still in existence. That it's just a matter of clearing out the slime and the filth and the dirt of Donald Trump, and the Republican Party will be clean and ready to be a Republican Party again. No, 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 no. What's it going to take for media, mainstream media in this country, to understand that the Republican Party is not coming back? It just isn't. It is a dead, vicious, rotting corpse, full of maggots, full of disease. And standing back in the corner, picking its teeth and lighting a cigarette is what has emerged from that corpse, and it's Christian fascism. Greg points out that Biden's speech last night raises the possibility that Democrats are on the cusp of potentially transformative political victories. Yeah. Biden talked about, as I just mentioned, about the May 1st hoped for deadline where every American adult should be eligible for the vaccine, which, if we could get there, of course, raises the prospect of some sort of normalcy, not a return, because I don't think we're ever going to be like we were. Whether that's good, bad, or indifferent is immaterial. But a normalcy. This is not normal, the way we're living. It's not. But he also, Biden, hailed his signing of the $2 trillion rescue package. And he declared that, help's not on the way, help is here. So these stimulus checks and child allowance payments and just millions of Americans are going to be getting these. And a lot of us are going to benefit from financial assistance that will alleviate unemployment and health care costs. Because people who are on the Affordable Care Act, you're going to see your premiums go down. Unemployment comp is going to be extended into September for an additional $300 a week. And at the same time, Democrats are going to preside over the defeat of the pandemic and this hoped for return to some kind of normalcy, which would put an end to this trauma that we've gone through for the past year. So the Democrats in Congress, with the participation of not one Christian in the legislative branch of government. And why do I keep leaning on Christians? Because they're the ones who declare themselves to be Christian. So fuck you. If you're a member of Congress and you don't like the way Mike Malloy identifies you as a sick, degenerate Christian, I don't give a damn. But not a single Christian in the Republican Party, in the House or the Senate, participated in this relief package. So Democrats are going to be implementing the most transformative piece of social policy since, if you don't want to go back to the Great Depression, just go back to Lyndon Johnson, since the Great Society. And 70% of Americans, that's the average in all these polls, 70% of Americans, not right or left, Democrat or Republican or Christian fascist, 70% of Americans support what the Democrats in Congress did. And meanwhile, even these filthy Christian fascists and the zombie Republican Party, they all acknowledge that the economy is likely going to boom. What they're saying is that Democratic policies have nothing to do with it. Of course not. You know why the economy is going to boom? Because of Donald Trump. Huh? So, as Greg Sargent points out, this alone starkly illustrates the current moment's differences from 2009, when Republicans could regularly claim the sluggish recovery was a disaster and blame it directly on Obama and the Democrats. And on top of that, Republicans appear increasingly focused on this bullshit with so-called cancel culture and Dr. Seuss. Of course. An observer points out, while progressives are engaging these cultural fights, and I just wish my progressive friends would just say fuck it and walk away from it, elected Democrats largely are not taking the bait. They're not going into some discussion with these sick son of a bitches about Dr. Seuss, for Christ's sake, or the term cancel culture. Get fucking over it, progressives. Let it go. But Linker points this out, quote, what if, while Republicans are busy trying to bait Democrats on culture war issues, those Democrats end up winning public opinion in a big way by refusing to play along, by changing the subject, and by actually making the lives of most Americans concretely better? How's that for socialist thinking, or whatever you want to label it as? But the Christian fascists want to talk about Dr. Seuss being banned, or the Christian fascists want to talk about abortion or birth prevention pills, or pregnancy prevention pills, or whatever happened to Joe Biden's son with all the scandal and horror that he was involved in Ukraine. That just kind of disappeared. Where is it? Hello? As Greg points out, the Republican Party remains largely defined by its continuing to offer blowjobs to Donald Trump. Yeah, that's what they are. That's all they are. Of course, Donald Trump is holding a gun and saying, down on your knees. And they get right down, led by Mike Pence. But Trump, the person most directly associated, as Greg puts it, with the toweringly incompetent and malevolent governance that helped inflict this year of trauma and devastation on all of us. I'll tell you, as bad as Trump appears now, history is going to eviscerate this son of a bitch, unless the Christian fascists do take over and we do become a Margaret Atwood-style culture society. Toweringly incompetent, malevolent governance. Whoa. A Democratic strategist named Simon Rosenberg said, quote, on COVID and the recovery, Republicans have chosen the wrong side in a once-in-a-century domestic fight. He added that the Republicans have decided to, quote, sit out a vital effort to get America out of its most serious domestic crisis since the 1930s, end quote. And all I can hope is that 70% who support this relief plan, that 70% will understand fully the sickness and the destruction and the evil aspects of Trump and everything about him. I hope. And Simon Rosenberg added, this Democratic strategist, under the normal rules of politics, you might expect the Republican Party to follow a post-Herbert Hoover trajectory in which it simply isn't competitive for decades. Because once Roosevelt was elected, right, that was the end of the Republican Party for decades. But as Greg points out, the coming Republican strategy tends to get covered as conventional politics. And this is a part that drives me crazy, too. The New York Times has a piece reporting that Republicans intend to, their word, define Biden's relief bill by hyping the supposed excesses and payoffs to what these Christian fascists are going to label as interest groups. And Republicans are also betting voters will forget how the relief bill's benefits came to be, after which they'll scream about deficits destroying the country. And these Christian fascists, according to Greg, are even banking on inflation from all that spending. That's according to the New York Times. Now, that's all good to know. You know, you got to understand your enemy, right? But it's only part of the story. As Greg Sargent has pointed out several times, Republicans can plausibly take back power through voter suppression and anti-majority tactics while entirely withdrawing from the conversation about how to tackle our major crises. They don't care. The Christian fascists do not care about any crisis facing the American public. They don't care. It doesn't matter. The only thing the Christians are wanting, demanding, is absolute, total power. That's it. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.